Hello, my name is Elvis, and I'm working on a documentary about my father's kidnapping called We Are Lions.
Algo que hace tu papá es que se me hace muy peligroso, es que anda de noche espiando a esta gente.
I have a story to tell. All of this still feels like a dream. The kidnapping, the trial, the death threats, the hurricane.
Unprecedented tropical rains and catastrophic flooding.
I almost die in the process, and my dad almost dies twice. There's a social justice element to this. There is an injustice that was done, right? That needs to be corrected, needs to be addressed. And I hope that this film can actually put a spotlight on these serious subjects that are happening in our communities that are really being overlooked.
De que mi mamá muriera, yo siempre pensaba en mi mamá y cuando muere también va. Y después de que me secuestraron, ellos agarraron el primer lugar en mi vida, el pensamiento, porque despierto pensando, ese maldito.
True crime is one of the hottest genres right now, and we're never hearing from the victim side of things. It's rare. Like, it's all about the glorification of these serial killers that became famous. And I just want to tell the story of a common man from our community that went through this horrific experience that happens to be my father. So this is also a story of just father and son going on this wild journey together, and that's something that a lot of people can connect with. So I think I got a lot of great pieces, and I can't wait for you to see some of it. I've been working on this project for over 7 years, and I have hundreds of hours of footage. I probably have at least 2 films in the can right now. Production is wrapped, and now I'm seeking funds to hire an editor, a story editor, so we can take this thing to the next level. There's for sure a diamond in the rough here, and if you agree, if you connect with the material, please reach out. Please think about supporting this financially, and if you can't, then share it. Or if you have anyone that you think would be interested in working on this, send them our way. And any help that I can get with completing the project or seeking justice and putting some people behind bars, please, I need you. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope to connect with you soon. Thank you for listening.
Hello, family. Welcome back to Concrete Pastures. I'm Nancy Mlemwasisi. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you to our sponsor, BetterHelp. To anybody who's new, this is a space that allows myself and others to share our stories as we deconstruct the world's view of immigrant status. We unlock the joys, the laughs, and the bravery that being an immigrant brings. As we continue to grow our community, we ask for your support by subscribing to this channel and stay a while as we dive into today's episode. Oh my God. On today's episode, I'm excited to bring an amazing guest. His name is Elvis Leon, and he's a filmmaker, he's a veteran, and he's no stranger to a life of an immigrant. He has traveled around the world. He's the son of an immigrant and is here today to share their powerful story. Hi, Elvis. How are you? Welcome.
Hello from Los Angeles. Hopefully, you're not up too late in New York, so we'll get you out of here quick. Thanks
Oh
for having
yeah, I hope. But I'm so grateful that you're staying with me. You're staying up with me. It's 6 over there. It's almost 9 o'clock. We jumped on early. But for starters, I just want to how I met you, actually. I want to start with your article that was sent to me by Nosa Iyere that has been on the podcast, and I'm so grateful. He sent it to me. We're going to get into it later in the story, but he sent it to me when I was leaving to go home to Africa.
Oh, wow.
And what I did was I few days before that, so when I got on the plane, that's when I was reading it. I felt like I was in a movie, to be honest with you.
Wow.
But before we get into that,
Me too. I felt like I was in the movie too when I was
yeah,
looking at it.
no,
It was too
for
crazy.
sure. Like it, I've watched a lot of Lifetime. I don't watch it anymore like that, but with Lifetime movies, it felt like that. reading your article. And this article, what I'm talking about is it's a online magazine, 5280 magazine. But for starters, I just want for our guests to get to know you. I've introduced you as a filmmaker, a veteran. Thank you so much for your service. But how did you get to go to Iraq? I've seen some of your story that you've shared on some platforms, and I wanted just to get into that. Or maybe you can introduce us how you were here in the US. You were born here in the US and in Los Angeles, where you are, right?
That's right. Yeah. So, well, yeah, my name is Elvis, and I was born here in Los Angeles. And my parents immigrated here in the 80s. My mother from Mexico and my father from Guatemala, and they fell in love here in Los Angeles. And I'm the product, the firstborn.
Oh,
So,
nice.
first, second generation American family, English as a second language for myself. I still I'm in a Spanish speaking only home. So yeah, the culture is still we have a strong connection. We have a strong connection to the culture. So still, so that's great. You want to know how I got involved in the military? Is that what you where you
Yes. How did
are?
you get into the military and what was your experience there? Because I
Um,
watched your 6-minute video.
Thank you.
Oh my God.
I've
I
lived a movie. I've lived a few movies.
I was moved
Mhm.
and I wanted more, to be honest with you. I haven't experienced a veteran that's so raw like
Mm.
that and telling their story. I think most of you guys, or your brothers and sisters, they
Yeah.
keep everything that happens to themselves.
I think it's such a difficult thing to explain, and I think most veterans just feel like no one's going to be able to relate with them except other people who have experienced this. And sometimes we automatically dismiss people that haven't seen these extreme conditions
Mm,
because it is so horrific at times and very traumatic. And when you come home, you're expected to live a normal life after you've seen the most extreme version and situations that a human can witness, you know. And there was beautiful moments too of camaraderie and meeting the local population, the Iraqi people that there's a lot of people that were innocent that got caught in this war, so you see a lot of terrible things, so I think when you come home, it's just a very confusing period that lasts months or years. Some people never really quite transition fully, and I got to say this because I said it in a last podcast with Nusa about my friend. He committed suicide 6 months ago
I'm so
because
sorry.
another victim of PTSD, and this is an example of a person who, for the last almost 15 years was struggling with reintegrating back to society. And he took it one step further, though, when the conflict broke out in Ukraine. The Ukrainian army was undermanned, and they were looking for foreign fighters. And my friend went. He went to Ukraine and fought there. And while everybody was, changing their profile photo to the Ukrainian flag, he actually did something, and he
Anyway,
went there. Long story short, it wasn't what he thought, and maybe he was chasing something that we all feel like we left a piece of our soul, in Iraq or wherever you served on the battlefield. And maybe he was trying to collect that. Maybe he was trying to relive something that maybe wasn't real, because we like to romanticize that time. And he came home. He came home like maybe 3 months after he left, and just he had eviction notices in his apartment. There was trouble at home with family and stuff, and just a very terrible time. And then he took his life, and this is a guy that survived a couple war zones, and then just feeling like he was betrayed, by his government and lied to. And I think that's kind of what hurts the most, is that sense of disillusionment and betrayal.
Oh, for me, looking in, and I used to work for a credit union, and with the credit union and a lot of banks that I've worked for, we have a certain section where we take care of our veterans in terms of loans and everything else. And for me, I was under the impression that everywhere else caters to you guys when you come home and you treat it to a certain level of respect. I didn't know until I watched a lot of your documentaries explaining on how you guys are treated. It's disappointing, for lack of a better word. It's really disappointing to just see that.
It is. And, I don't want to say it's completely bad because, we get free healthcare. So there's some positive about going. And as you know, living in America, no one gets free healthcare in this country except military veterans. So that's a part of the perk. But there's a lot more that can be done, in preparing people to come back home properly. Because after you see something traumatic, you just are expected to be a normal person, and that's just not a reality, So, yeah.
My last question on this, what do you think can be done in preparation for you guys to come home?
I'm not certain what the military is doing now to help people transition out, but when I was in, it was like a 3-day course of how to be a civilian again after you just spent 5 years in the military. And some people spent half that time in war, because during this period you were going every other year, and in the Army the deployments are a minimum of 12 months, so you're out there an entire year. It's terrible. Every day is Monday, no days off, 12-hour days. You can get called in the middle of the night. Someone's dead, someone needs blood, something happened, so it's just very 24/7 orientated kind of lifestyle, and the most extreme place.
Wow. No, thank you for sharing that. So I'm going to jump ahead. We're going to get into your father's article. And again, like I mentioned in the beginning, this is an article that is found in the online magazine. It's big in Colorado, 5280. I'm so grateful that they were able to share that story and you guys sharing your story with all of us. The title is The Trucker's Kidnapping, and that's on your father, Orlando. So
Yes.
could you share with us, when did that happen, and to your best of your ability, please?
Yeah, it's crazy to say that this happened almost 10 years ago, but what happened after lasted several years, which we never anticipated. So in 2014, my father was kidnapped, and by men who organized this from Denver, Colorado. So my dad was taken in Guatemala, and we paid a ransom to men who lived 30 miles away from our home in Denver. And this is when things just took a turn for the worse, especially after there was an arrest that happened in Guatemala, and then that started an investigation both in Denver and in Guatemala that lasted years. And then in 2018 there was a trial, and then there was recent arrests as of 2020 and 2021, and now we're waiting for a pending trial, a new one. So it's been something that just took over our life, my life and my father's, because I think we both felt so betrayed by the systems that that are put in place to help us, but they completely dismissed us. They didn't believe us. They thought we were involved in some narco trafficking, criminal gang. So it's like they labeled us everything under the sun except innocent and except coming to our aid. And this was something that was just unbelievable to experience in America. Like everyone expects that this is the place where there's justice for all, and the more and more shows we see on TV, or stories like my family's, like it's very common, that this place is degrading, and I think that we're living in a difficult time right now where just public safety is I don't know, declining. I don't know how you feel about that. I don't know.
No, there were so many questions that were coming to my head when I was reading the documentary, and one of it was, if this was a white person that had reported this, do you think would be the same reaction or delay to everything that had transpired?
You know what? Like, obviously, that crossed my mind many times. Like, if my father was a politician or senator or just a regular white person, would I have gotten justice? And I think so, because there was a story too recently where a white girl went missing, and everybody, just marched the streets and looked for this lady, and she was missing. And but at the same time, there's black and brown kids that go missing all the time, and you don't hear anything about it. So um, I I wanted to say that that wasn't the case. That there was like stereotypes and prejudice and some racism, but I feel like that's exactly what we experience, and it's very unfortunate.
Yeah, because it took too long for everybody to react, and you had to take matters into your own hands for anybody to react. So you guys even going to the extent of paying a ransom of $7,000.
Yeah.
That was just mind blowing, and to find only to find out through asking for help from the teller at the bank at Wells Fargo. That's the one that actually even made you guys know that this was in Colorado, where you were paying someone who actually lives in Colorado.
That's right. And that was actually half the ransom. We paid about $15,000 in total. That was just half of it came from Denver.
Half of it came from Denver, and then later on you guys paid more?
In Guatemala, the other half was paid.
Wow.
Yeah, and but then of course, unseen medical costs and damages and psychological. So I think by the end of it, that price has ballooned, double that. So unfortunately, with legal costs and everything, it's been expensive.
So could you explain to us why your father was going to Guatemala?
Yeah, so my father belongs to a subculture of Central American businessmen called the Transmigrantes, and that's just the name of the visa that Mexico gives these truck drivers, that they can travel across Mexico into Central America, and their primary source of deliveries are used vehicles, new vehicles, and any kind of goods that people may order from their respective countries. So these men are mostly men. I've seen women on this path, but they are able to come into the United States with a visa for a limited time to purchase just goods. And in Guatemala, for whatever reason, Toyota is king. So like 90% of all the vehicles that go down there are Toyota trucks. And on the last trip that I went on, there was 1,200 Toyotas waiting to cross the border into Mexico in Texas. And these 1,200, it probably is every couple of days. So but every month there might be 20,000 Toyotas that go through these borders. So it's a big business. It's legal. And there's custom and immigration checkpoints in Texas that they have to go through, in Mexico, and then at every border that they continue past.
So how did they capture him? He gets to Guatemala, because this was something that he was doing all the time.
Yeah, so my dad's been doing that for 20 years, you know. So
Wow.
as long as I know, it's been like the family business, you know.
Right.
And I've been on this journey with him a few times, and it's like a 7-day road trip. It's pretty long. It's grueling. You go through cartel checkpoints in Mexico. There's bandits. There's pirates. It's an adventure, you know, to be honest.
Wow.
But everyone sticks together, and you go in convoys, and you know, there's safety in numbers. And so on this particular trip, my father went, and a routine trip. He had worked with this client several times already, and there happened to be a car accident in Mexico with the client's vehicle. And the client ended up getting really upset at the situation and the accident, and he wanted that vehicle rescued. He got very aggressive during this period, and my father wasn't even driving the vehicle. He wasn't even present. He was at home. He had suggested a different driver because my father was busy and he couldn't do it, but he facilitated someone else to do it. So, long story short, a month later, my father gets the vehicle out of this Mexican impound lot, turns it in to the brother of the men that live in Denver. And then the brother said, "Thank you. See you in Denver." They shook hands. Friendly. My father goes home. He goes to sleep. The next morning, these men show back up for breakfast, asking if my father wanted a coffee. And they're like, "Let's go get a coffee." And my father thought it was weird because they came unannounced. And they took a few steps from his front door. They pull a gun and they hit him in the mouth, breaking his teeth. And he was knocked unconscious. And then later, my father woke up, and they had him in a cemetery with an unmarked grave dug out, ready to disappear him. So, and that's when we started receiving the ransom calls about, pay us this money or you'll never find your father.
Wow.
So,
In the article, I read that I don't know how you guys got in communication with the Guatemala police, and they called your mom. The kidnappers called your mom, telling her not to reach out to the police.
yeah, that's I guess a testament of some of how corruption has seeped into some of these police stations, that some of them are a part of all of this. They're in connection with these cartels and gangs. So we were told not to call the police, but we felt like that was the only option. And as you say, 5 minutes later they call us, and we know that you called the police, do it again and we'll kill him. And so then that just eroded more trust in, like, who can you trust in these situations. If you can't call the police, then who do you call? And and during this period we're calling the police in Denver as well. I'm calling the FBI, I'm calling the local police. No one cared. No one even bothered to take a report. No one gave us advice. It was just like, good luck, and keep us posted. And it was just like unbelievable. And so that's why I'm really happy that the story came out, because I really want to continue to share this, like, injustice that happened, because it's just, this case is done and closed. I don't think we'll ever get justice for this particular case, and these men in Colorado will continue to be free, and living in our community. That's just the reality of the world we live in right now. But I hope that, people that listen to this will at least be more conscious of how they protect themselves, and then just thinking about security and how we're going to protect our communities, because a lot of these institutions are not doing it.
Wow. During that time, you being a veteran, did you even reach out to like your community and seek help?
I did, but I think the only answers that I was getting were, how should I say, just offers of going and taking care of it ourselves,
I see.
and that was always on the table. And later when the arrest did happen and the police took us somewhat serious, they still had me and my father. They're like, we need you guys to get more evidence, and we need you guys to get recordings, get photos of them, and like they basically told us to do their job for them.
Yeah,
And
that's what I'm
us,
thinking right now. I'm like, okay, what happened to doing your job? Okay, you
it was so unbelievable, but at the time, I think that we were just caught up in this whole we'll do anything that
yeah,
we did it. And now
yeah.
looking back at it, like if we would have got killed in this process of like digging around, and we did find their homes, we did find their Facebook profile photos, we did, like we had the bank account number and we had names. So we became like our own father and son private investigation team, and we ended up like finding all this information. But thinking back, if we would have been shot and killed doing something that the FBI or the Homeland Security told us to do, uh, the Department of Drug Enforcement Agency, the DEA too, they specifically them actually, we could have got killed, and then would have just been another brown people dead, and no one would have cared. So it's just it's embarrassing.
Wow. Um, wow. How is your father doing?
My father's okay. He's better in better spirits now. For a long time he was very angry and just motivated by getting justice the legal way, but he was also, thinking about, doing getting street justice, I guess, retribution. And that's when things got scary in our family because we didn't know what was gonna happen. But he's just happy. I talked to him before I got on this call and
Yeah.
just to ask him if he wanted me to, share a message. But he's just happy that people are reading the story and connecting with the material finally, because this was like a family secret, I guess, for so long. And it was so personal that we couldn't really say too much about it. But now it's been a few years. We feel a little bit more comfortable, but things are still things will always be somewhat dangerous for our family, I guess, because these men are free and they're shopping in the same grocery stores that we go to, and they know mutual friends of my father, so they're just like this ominous figure that's going to be living, in our world for forever. I think, I don't know.
I'm curious to know what is your perspective after uh, this whole ordeal has gone through, like on life and just humans in a whole, like our
uh,
government, humans. What is your
I mean,
perspective?
to be honest, yeah, I'm still climbing out of that hole because I lost faith. I lost faith in my religion and people and government and everybody, and it made me feel like I didn't belong in this society, because it's something that you lost friends in the process of serving the country, and I lost a piece of my soul, and I lost my best friend last year
Mhm.
in this pursuit, and it was for nothing, and them ignoring this case and my family was personal, and it was just like another form of betrayal. So I'm going to a lot of therapy, to be fully transparent, now. I feel like I'm still processing a lot of this. It's just been a lot. It's been very overwhelming, and but I still have hope, I guess, throughout all of this, throughout like all the pain, and suffering, but I think that that I'm glad to at least be alive to share the story and still have my father, and I think that's the most important thing.
Wow. Ah, you know, a lot of the times we go through the hard times and it shakes us to the core, and you've definitely gone through a fair share of hard times. And it's just amazing that you still have hope, which a lot of people would have lost that completely, and having gone through what you've gone through. So continue the journey of healing.
Thank you.
A lot of the times when we go through traumatic events, we love the idea of peace. We are in love with the idea of peace, and finding that is hard. It takes a lot of work to get there. And
Definitely.
you're doing the work.
I'm gonna have to holler at your sponsors, Better Health, or whatever. Yeah, you need to hook me up with them because
Yes, Better Help is here. Being an immigrant can be hard. Having been away from my home country for over 20 years has allowed me to experience these hardships firsthand. Throughout my journey, I've had a lot of challenges that were hard to bear. Juggling adjustment to a new country, obtaining my immigration papers, getting married, having children, establishing my career, and finding time for myself. Even though I've always had faith, I also relied on therapy, which gave me the tools to cope with the issues life brought me. My fellow dreamers, let's remove the stigma around therapy and normalize seeking help with today's sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp offers licensed therapists who are trained to listen and help you. Go to betterhelp.com/concrete pastures for 10% off your first month of therapy with BetterHelp, and get matched with a therapist who will listen and help in as little as 48 hours.
yeah, Better Help. Yeah.
Yeah, no, BetterHelp is here because I mean, I'm big on mental health, and I've, like everybody else, we've all had our share of hard times, especially given what has happened with, COVID and just life itself knocking us down all the time.
Yeah,
But it's how we get up that, tells the true testament of who we are, really.
definitely. And you see how the streets of, I mean, and I see videos of New York, but I'm sure you see videos of LA, and you
Yes.
see like since COVID, all the homeless people that are everywhere, just the housing crisis, people addicted to all these opioids, and
Yes.
yeah, I think just it's a tough time, and the economy, is not doing so well, so it's just it's a struggle for a lot of
Yes.
people.
It's definitely hard everywhere. I want to get into your documentary.
Hmm.
You've since done a documentary of you traveling and documenting, starting with Guatemala. I'm curious, was that part of you finding healing, starting with Guatemala? Because I don't know if I would I would have enough, I guess, the nerve to go to where my father was being held,
You
uh,
know,
the country, and actually visit the place where he was. Was that a way of you finding healing or just facing your fears?
both.
What was both?
Definitely. And it's funny you say that. I'm glad you caught that because, I could have went anywhere in the world, but my gut said, go to Guatemala. And this was the most dangerous place for my family. This is a place that almost took my father away,
Mm-hmm.
where my country of origin,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just like, for whatever reason, I had to go there. I was scared out of my mind when I landed on the plane. And I went alone. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't even tell my father. I went because I didn't want anyone to know. And at the time, my spirits were really low, and you could even say I had a death wish, and I went back to Guatemala thinking that maybe something would happen to me, like, and it would take the pain away, whatever that means. But I found love, I found beauty, I found just compassion of Guatemalan people, the indigenous people, that the Mayans. Everyone thinks the Mayans
Mm.
disappeared years ago, but they still live in Guatemala, and I just got shown so much love and unconditional love by strangers that it really made me change how I perceived Guatemala, and it made me begin to forgive Guatemala for what it did. So and then 6 months later, I go back with my father, and we go together to try to get closure, and we go back to the scene of the crime, and we relive this situation together. And this is what the documentary is about. I don't want to say too much, but
Yes.
it's a story of a father and son just trying to get closure, after years of spying on cartel people and police investigations, and just being in and out of court. So it's yeah, it's a story. It's a unique situation, right? How many people can say that they went on this 2,500-mile road trip with their father, and not only that, plus all the dangerous stuff that we got into, and maybe your viewers will see that in the trailer that I'll send
Yes,
you. But
I'll definitely be posting part of the trailer on this video for sure.
but yeah, no, we're looking for finishing funds to edit the film, because I have 500 hours, and if anyone knows about documentary filmmaking, it takes a long time, and you need to hire one or other editors to help you go through that footage, and then maybe there'll be some reshoots and reenactments or animation, to help tell the story. But I have a great film on my hands. I'm confident of that. I just need some support to help finish telling that story.
Yeah, it's for sure. I've seen the trailer. Oof, it's touching and it's captivating. I love how you're telling the story, and there's gonna be a lot of lessons from especially our immigrant community. They'll appreciate it. I love the father-son story as well, that you guys are together in this journey. What was that like, being with your dad?
It was great, because I feel like we hadn't spent well, because I left when I went to the army. I was gone for like 5+ years, and I was stationed in Germany, so I didn't see my dad like throughout almost that entire period. So I think we not fell apart, but after so many years, you kind of lose that common ground. So when all of this happened, and we decided to do the documentary, me and my dad were just going on several road trips, and I'm just recording him, and he's telling me stories about his childhood, or him immigrating and dodging border patrol in Mexico, and sneaking into California illegally numerous times. He has a residency now, so he can say this, but he has such crazy stories, and I think maybe that's what we have in common, is that maybe I tried to beat and outdo his storytelling, so I went to have my own adventures, and now
Yeah.
everyone in my family's like, "We thought your dad was the craziest, but now we think you beat him," And they're like, "That's because you have a passport. Because if your dad doesn't, my dad doesn't have a U.S. passport, so he can't travel as freely as I can. But my family's like, you only beat him because you have an American passport." And I was just like, probably.
What have you learned about yourself through that journey?
Um, that I'm a lot like my father, more than I thought. It's funny how you always say, oh, I'm not like him, or I'm not gonna be like him,
Yeah.
and then you realize, oh my God, I'm exactly like my father. The good, the bad, and the ugly. but
Wow.
uh, but no, it's I think that I'm still learning about what I have learned besides that. Maybe just resiliency. I don't know why I've stuck at this for as long as I did, you know, and times I feel like I'm trapped by this what should I call I don't want to call it ambition, that's the wrong word, but infatuation, this desire to finish this film, to get justice. I think it was because of the betrayal, you know. I felt really hurt, so I wanted to do something that meant something, and I feel like this story was important because it just showed a lot of errors in our society, you know, and I just wanted to point that out.
I think as bad as it was for you guys, I think this story is for all of us. So you guys, in a way, went through it for somebody else as well. And this is why you're here to tell it. Because a lot of the times when we go through hard times, we don't see it. You don't see the value in it. And then until you tell your story, your testimony is also going to bless somebody else, open someone's eyes and the way they move, in the way they interact with the police, maybe the FBI, and how just reading your story. Because for me, reading your story, I have to look at the government differently because I didn't know this.
Yeah.
So we all have a lot to learn from this story.
Yeah, it's scary, you know, and I hope it changes, you know. I hope no one experiences this again, and but you know, we got to hold these the police accountable, you know,
Yeah.
when possible. And I think that's my dad's main message is because everyone asks him why did he have this like rabid desire to get revenge, and but my dad always said that he never felt fear during this entire period, and even though the kidnapper said do not file a police report, my father said we must, because we have lost control of our villages, our towns, our communities to these people because they have intimidated everybody into silence, you know. So his whole thing is that he was willing to die to get justice because he wanted to teach, or I mean, bring awareness to the injustices that are happening, and he wants to regain control of his community.
Got it. Is filmmaking part of your healing process, or is this just a passion or something that you love to do?
It is for me. I will say that, yeah. I think I don't have any other outlets, and I think this is the only way that I can really express myself. And doing these interviews is practice too, because you might not be able to tell, but I'm an introvert. I'm very shy, and I don't like to really say much or be in front of the camera. But I think all of this is practice, and I just want to like vent and get all of this out of my system because it's really degraded my life in a lot of ways, you know. So so I'm just trying to heal right now, and if I can do it with this movie or through better help or through anything, I'm down, you know, like I'm willing to put in the work right now.
Got it. I'm an introvert too, so
There you
we
go.
share that. We share that, but this is a calling, and it's a platform that we have to highlight all of our stories in any form that they come in, and this is one powerful story that you and your family experienced, and I'm so grateful that you're able to share with all of us.
Yeah, well, thank you for listening. Appreciate you.
No problem. This comes out on Father's Day. What would you like to tell your father?
Oh wow, this is perfect opportunity. Well, I love my father. He's one of my heroes for sure, and we won't be there together, but hopefully that made him proud by being the spokesperson and telling this story for him.
Got it. How can people support you and how can we find you?
Storiesbyelvis.com. You can find my social media on there, and there's a trailer for the film, and and the GoFundMe page. So please just check out the page. You don't have to donate, no pressure, but if you see anybody or if you know of anyone that would be interested in something like this, please share it. But thank you so much. But storiesbyelvis.com.
Got it. And how can we follow? Do you have any social media handles?
At Long Live Elvis Forever, number 4 VR forever.
Nice. I'll have
But
everything in the show notes though. And the
that's on
links
my website.
to everything. I'll have the documentary also at the end of this, the trailer of the documentary. It's very powerful. I can't wait to see the whole movie. I want to follow everything that you guys are doing.
I can't wait either. It'll come soon. I really hope so. So thank you so much.
No, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your powerful story. Again, the healing journey is just starting. So just continue going. And I hope you and your family find peace in any form that you find it.
Thank you so much. Now it's time for bed.
I know, right? It's time for bed for me. But thank you so much.